Purposely. Your life, God's purpose. Listen at purposely.com.
For me, in work and in life and in all the twists and turns of the things that have happened, I think it's always about holding things loosely. My plans are never as good as God's plans in life and in building.
Friend, I am so glad you're here. I am Julie Lyles Carr, host of the AllMomDoes podcast, part of the Purposely Podcast Networks. And, I just love when we have a chance to talk with somebody who's just in it with us, friends, the kids, and redoing the house and trying to make decisions and trying to chase some career stuff and maintain the marriage and all that. I have somebody today that I know you're going to be so excited to hear from, that you're probably going to recognize from, all the times that you've got HGTV on when you are trying to get that laundry folded. Meet my new friend, Jenny Mars. Jenny, thanks so much for being on today.
Yes, thank you for having me. Hello.
Hello. I am just having a moment looking at beautiful you, but also looking at your stove and your oven behind you. Fabulous, fabulous. Which that's probably where a lot of the listeners know you from. So give the listener a little thumbnail of who you are, what you do, what the show is, all that good stuff.
Sure. Okay. So my name's Jenny Mars. I live in Bentonville, Arkansas, and my husband and I have been building and remodeling homes here for a very long time, like 20 years, which, we started when we were 5. So
Yeah,
do the
there
math.
you go. Exactly.
Yeah. And we have 5 kids ranging in age from 6 to 15. And it's currently summer break. So it's chaos. You can hear it behind me. Um, Everybody needs all the things because I'm sitting here with you.
Of course.
Um, and then we started our show, which is called Fixer to Fabulous, back in actually the first season we filmed in 2018. So we're filming season 7 right now, which will air probably this fall, maybe in January. We're not sure. And we remodel homes here in our community on the show. And that's it airs Tuesday nights when it's on. And I think
That's where the listener can go to find it. Jenny, one of the things that I find fascinating about the work you do in connection with your faith journey is when it comes to the idea of doing building and remodeling, we on a so much more minimal scale than what you do, but we lived for many years in Tulsa, Oklahoma, right down the road from Bentonville. And Jenny, we bought a house that we were like, it was this old colonial from the 70s. And it was like, we're going to do this and we're going to do that. And we're going to do this. Girl, I was not prepared for what really it takes. I mean, first of all, there should be marriage counseling specific to redoing houses, I think. And just trying to keep up with all the planning, trying to be organized enough to keep it all going. To really do well in that industry, as you and your husband have done, takes an incredible ability to see the big picture, break it down into all the pieces, stay on top of all of that. So all of the planning and all of the strategy and all of that, I get what that must require. And then on the other part of this is what it requires to trust God, which is the name of your book, to allow him to build when you have no idea what he's doing. So the fact that you can hold somehow within the gifting of your personality, the ability to have all of that strategy and all those steps outlined with the flexibility for when things go sideways, but to also hold this place of trusting God, I find to be so fascinating. So take me all the way back. Were you always someone who was a planner, who always had the checklist? Is that part of your personality, or is that something you learned through the work that you do?
Oh gosh. I mean, this it's kind of a long story about how I started with this career path. It's not at all what I had planned. But I mean, that again is a very long story. But when you talk about renovating a house and feeling there's so many decisions, there's a million decisions that need to be made. And yes, you have to break it down into manageable chunks. And I think that sometimes it can feel so overwhelming because you're like, for us right now, for example, we have 8 houses right now going for the show. And so each house has to have decisions made every day, and 100% things are going to go wrong. It never, like, plan A never works out. It always ends up being plan like D by the end, but
Yeah,
sometimes plan
yeah.
B is better than plan A. But I think there's something that is really amazing about that it's like, instead of just a new build, because that is also very overwhelming and there's a lot of decisions. I think that there's something about a renovation that's really fun, is because it's a lot of problem solving, and it's a lot of taking this plan that you have and holding it extremely loosely. And I think there's a lot of parallels with life and with trusting God for your path. And I think that's, for me, in work and in life and in all the twists and turns of the things that have happened, I think it's always about holding things loosely. My plans are never as good as God's plans, in life and in building. My first plan is always like, okay, for example, tomorrow we have a call to go through the plan. We're about to start another house, so we'll have 9 going out right now. Um, and we're about to start again. And so we go through this call, and have to submit the plan to the network and tell them exactly what we're going to do. And um, I've never, and now we've done this for 7 years and, do 16 a year. And that's just the show. That's not real life building. That's been 20 years. But I've never submitted a plan and had it actually turn out exactly the way we submitted it, ever. Because
Yeah.
that's not real life. And so I think that, um, I think that holding our plans loosely is just the key to life and work and staying sane, because if you're gripping something too tightly, it's not going to work out for you. Like, if you're gripping whatever it is, it's going to be hard to let that go, and you always have to let stuff go. You always do. No matter what, whether it's pivoting with a plan or whether it's anything. So yeah, I think just learning to hold everything loosely, with an open palm, and, trusting and praying, and um what God's path is always, for me, the best. Always turns out better, I think, for everyone.
Yeah.
That could be the case. So I don't know
I
if that
do think
answered the question.
yeah, I think there are personality styles and I think there are professions
Yeah.
that sort
Yeah.
of set us up to make it tougher to trust God sometimes because part of what we are doing with the bulk of our days is being good planners and problem solving and stepping into the gap when something goes a little bit sideways. And then when we're called upon spiritually in our lives to go, "Oh, God may do something different here." That can be really tricky for some of us, depending on what we do for a living or just the natural bent that God has given us. You experienced some of that even in the development of your own family and building your own family. What was that journey like? As someone, again, who for 20 years has been planning floor plans and rip out that pantry and put this here and da 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 da. And then all of a sudden you're like, and let's do family. And then it was kind of
Yeah.
a, "Er." So tell me about that
Yeah.
season.
Yeah, so I think for me, I've always been a type A planner, get everything, I when I say the whole holding plans loosely, that has definitely been a learning curve for my whole life. I've always been an achiever. I have a goal, I'm going to achieve it. And so when we decided to start a family, Dave and I had been married for, I don't remember now, 4 years or so. We did a lot of traveling, we did all the things, and then we were like, okay, now we did all that. We've been building this business, and now we're gonna have kids, because that's what we
That's
decided
what
we
you
want to
do.
do. So
Yeah,
that's what
yeah.
we're gonna do. And when we decided, then it should happen, and it didn't happen that way, obviously. And I think that was probably the first time, actually, for Dave and I both. We would say, I think, not to speak for him, but I know because we've talked about this a lot, but for both of us, it was really the first time that, because we both have a very similar personality, that our plan, it was like, halt, and no, you actually have no control over this. And it was really jarring for both of us. It was a couple years of just like God working in our hearts. I think that I look back at that season of just so much heartache and loss and sorrow, between trying to have kids. For At first, we had, just a struggle to try to have children, and then we were adopting our daughter, and that was another struggle for many years. And I think at that season of time of just God working so much on our hearts and our lives and our ability to say, okay, your plan, not mine. And even if I don't get this thing, which is children, not a thing. It's this beautiful gift of a blessing, a child, but you're still good. So, getting us to that point, there was just a lot of work that had to be done in our personality and in our lives. And so I think that season of really learning, like, we are not in control of anything. And if we think we are, that's ridiculous. So we got through that season and then kind of got to the other side of that where now we have 5 kids and it's chaos, and we have, um, the show, which wasn't totally unexpected and not planned and not on again, not at all our idea or path or anything, um, and I think that God prepared us for all of this because there's a lot that's out of our control now in a different way, but I think he used that time to really cultivate our hearts and prepare us for that, but it definitely was jarring. I mean, it was a jarring, hard few year or 5, 6 years, I guess. But we both needed it because we were sort of just like I mean, nothing was perfect. But we had great families. We had a great marriage. We had friends. Like we had we had a great life. And then all of a sudden there was this one thing that was huge that we just suddenly couldn't make happen on our own. And that was, yeah, it was definitely a learning process for us of learning to give over control to God in a way that we never really had to before.
You think that you are in the final round of getting all this parenting done. You've got kids who are in high school, you're starting to think about college, and you're thinking, this is it. I'm Julie Lyles Carr. I'm a podcaster and I'm a mom of 8. And here's what I want you to know about George Fox University. It's a different way of doing college. Why? Because yes, it's all about getting a fantastic degree to set your kid up for their future. They have 60 undergrad programs available at George Fox University. But that's not where the story ends. It's also about equipping them spiritually. If you get out of college with a degree, but you don't have a closer relationship with God, that obviously is going to deeply impact what your young adult life looks like. So for your kiddos, I want you to consider, what would it mean for your child to be able to go to George Fox University, where 93% of George Fox students say they now have a closer relationship with Jesus? George Fox University is located in the Pacific Northwest in Oregon. They have 23 Division III athletic programs, and 100% of students at George Fox University receive financial aid. George Fox University is dedicated to their promise. They want every student to be known for who God created them to be. So listen, parents, yeah, you are getting into some of those final laps, but you definitely want to make these last laps count in a big way when it comes to the legacy of your parenting. So be sure and check out for your student, georgefox.edu. That's georgefox.edu. I think there can be this struggle at times when we have conversations about driven personalities, planners, people
Mhm.
who really try to show up prepared, people who are problem solvers,
Yeah.
and this notion of trusting God. And I feel like sometimes, Jenny, it's almost like we tend to kind of shame people who are having this type of personality bent. And I think it's
Yes.
fantastic if somebody truly can live in a position of being like, I don't know. I don't know what's for dinner tonight. I don't know what I'm doing in the next hour. And I just trust God. I'm like, listen, I'm so happy for you, friend, that you got some kind of download on trusting that just makes it feel so organic for you. But
Yeah.
for those of us for whom it can be tactically more difficult, and not because we don't believe God and not because we don't love God, but because He created us in a way in which
Mhm.
we do have the plan and we do have the calendar and we do have all the things. What do you say to yourself? How do you dig in and work with the Spirit of God for that trust while also honoring how He created you? Because
Yeah.
it's not wrong to have a plan. It's not wrong to have a blueprint. Jesus talks about who goes to build a
Mhm.
house without considering what it's going to cost ahead of time. So again, this strange place where sometimes we tend to sort of shame people who are planners, but is that really necessary? So, how did you work that out? Like, what were the things that you would say to yourself? What were the things that you would remind yourself of? What were the things that God showed you in that process?
Well, I mean, I think just as I think I mean, obviously men and women are created differently. And I think women are just natural planners. Dave and I had a little bit of an argument this morning about it because I'm working on a trip we have coming up and I'm planning all the logistics, because that's what I do. And he's like, well, just figure it out. It's fine. I'm like, no, it's not fine. We have to have
Yeah.
all the logistics. So I think, and I mean, we talk about calendars. I have literally three calendars
Here
sitting
she
right.
goes. That's my girl. Yeah.
Oh yeah. I mean,
Right here, sisterhood.
yes, because I think that there's yes, I mean, I think that we can't just say, "Oh, I just trust God and I'm just going to see how everything goes." God doesn't ask he asks us to actually do the work as well. And so I
Right.
think that we can't just assume that everything's going to work out. We actually have to keep our heads down and do the work. And we do say that. I say that a lot. Even just like our berry farm, for example, is a nonprofit farm that we started about 10 years ago. And again, very long story about how we started it, but we use it to fund programs that care for vulnerable kids here and around the world. And we started it because we had a nonprofit, we had a feeding program in our daughter's birth country, and we got this opportunity to buy this land, and we were like, this is too good of a thing to pass up. So we were like, okay, let's buy the land, and then let's pray about what does God want us to do with this land, because we knew it wasn't we this is our job. We buy and sell property all the time. It's not unusual for us to buy land, but we knew that this land was different. And so we weren't sure why. And so we prayed and a lot for a period of time, and it was actually Dave's idea for this blueberry farm, which is crazy because we're not farmers. We've never grown blueberries. I mean, our farm is just for fun. Like we have animals and a garden, but we planted 1,500 blueberry plants over there. And we have families come and do a U pick every summer. But when we first started it, we just had to do the one thing. Like we bought the land, and then Dave thought, well, let's make a blueberry farm. So then, okay, we went and had all the soil tested. And then we knew he went to school at the University of Arkansas to learn about blueberry farming. And so it wasn't that we trusted God with it, but we also did the work. I mean, we planted
Right.
1,500 plants. I had Charlotte in a backpack on my back as I was planting. It was hard work. We tilled the soil. We went for years and picked the blooms because they weren't ready yet for 3 years. And then we opened the farm for the big U pick the first time. And we had committed to starting a trade school in Zimbabwe for orphaned kids, and it was going to be $50,000 to start it. And we did all the math and we said, okay, this is going to be like, we're definitely going to raise $50,000. We can do this. Like, it's a lot of money, but we can do it with this farm. So we opened the blueberry farm, and the first morning when everybody was supposed to be there, we woke up and all the blueberries had been picked by the birds overnight.
Oh,
We didn't have enough
no.
blueberries. I mean, not all of them, but like 90% of them.
Yeah.
And so then we said, okay, we're going to try again next week. We have to wait for more blueberries to bloom. And then we woke up the morning that we had it scheduled for, and the night before we had this huge storm that ruined the crop. And so we had done all this work. At this point, it had been about 4 years worth of work, and we only made, I don't remember, I actually have the story in my book and I don't remember, but a handful, for about $4,000, I think, the first year. And we were like, okay, maybe we heard God wrong. Maybe
Yeah,
this
yeah.
is actually not
What
what
was
we're
that? Yeah.
supposed yeah, we're wrong. Um, but that we still had this farm, and so we still had to actually do the work. It wasn't us saying, "Oh well, that didn't work. Let's move on. We tried." We kept doing the work, and we kept the farm. We had to pick the weeds. There's a lot of work that goes into managing a farm, and this is just our on the side. This isn't our job,
Right, right.
but we kept doing it because we knew something was special about this place. And so now, all these years later, we have we have a school in Zimbabwe for kids. We have dorms there. We fund a feeding program in the Congo. We have a children's shelter here that we donate to. We have a school athletic program here that we anyways, all these amazing things that God's done with this farm that we knew when he first we had that discernment, like, this is something different. We're not supposed to sell this and develop it. We're supposed to use it for this. And we had to trust God because that first year, after all of that work, it was very defeating. And we were very confused. And we were like, should we keep doing this or do we just give up? And so there is always a point where even you think you hear God correctly, but that doesn't mean he's gonna just make it happen without your
Right.
participation. He could. I mean, he obviously could have just had someone drop by and give us a check for $50,000. That is God. He could do that, of course. But he also knew there was something about there is part of it of where you're co-laboring with him and you're working our whole family is a part of this. Like, we've all worked so hard. We have friends in our community that have been a part of the farm, and it's almost that, like, getting your hands dirty, that actually doing that physical work is there's something holy about that, and there's this refining process in that, where it's not that he's saying, "Don't plan, don't go to the school and learn how to grow the berry." I mean, we had to do all of
Right.
those things. We couldn't just say, "Okay, we planted the blueberries, now God, you got this," because
Right.
that's not how it works. He asks us to participate in the work, and then there's just that layer of trust of just and sometimes that's and also sometimes it doesn't work, and sometimes he closes a door. So that's not to say that every story is gonna be like the blueberry farm where it turns out to be this really beautiful story and this beautiful thing that he's used and done more with than we could have imagined. There's also 100 examples of things that Dave and I have done that we thought it's something that God wanted us to do, and there's also things that he wanted us to do it for a season, and that's
Right.
where,
Right.
keeping your hands open and not holding anything too tightly, and being able to discern, like, "Okay, we did that, and now it's okay to close that chapter and move on to what he has for us next." And I
Right.
think sometimes it's hard to move on when you have something that you really love, um, and you feel like, "This is my thing, I'm doing" but sometimes it's just for a season, and that's okay too.
I printed out a verse for one of my kiddos who's a real planner, and it's from Proverbs where it talks about that we plan and then God orders our steps. And there's a couple ways that people might look at that verse sort of like, ha ha, you made a plan and God laughed. We've seen that meme.
Yeah.
But to what you're saying, I do think God works with us in some of our plans. I think that He gives us ideas
Mm,
and plans sometimes. Sometimes we just
yeah.
have a plan. And because He's a good father, He's like, all right, let's do
Mm,
it. And so it doesn't always mean the timing or the
mhm.
effort is going to be what we thought it was going to be. And honestly, Jenny, I think that's part of the trust process as well. It's easy to trust when something happens immediately. It's easy to trust when, oh, we found this field, we planted the blueberries, and the first day people showed up, and you're never going to believe it, Jules. We had a $50,000 check at the end of that first day. Well, that trust. I mean, that's kind of transactional. And so I think in that way, trust does imbue a sense sometimes that it's going to take longer than we think. It may take more effort than we think. It doesn't mean that
Mhm.
God isn't in it. I love that story of the blueberry patch. Take me behind the scenes when it comes to doing the show, because obviously family is your priority. And you
Mhm.
interject things like having cameras around all the time and making that part of your life and elements of your family life being online and all of the things that can come with that. First of all, what is it like when you're in a season where you're shooting the show? What is that like for your family? What is that like for you and Dave?
So we're pretty much always filming. There's really not because it takes a long time. That's what it everybody, we get a lot of comments like, "Oh, hurry up. When's the next season?" It's like, "Well, we
Yeah.
actually are renovating these houses." And so it takes a long time because we have
Yeah.
a lot of houses. I wish it was quicker. But right now we're filming season 7. We started in March. We were supposed to wrap the season in November, but we're not going to because everything's, as always, taking longer than our production calendar.
Yes.
So we'll probably wrap the season in January, usually is what we do. And then we start pre-production in February and then filming in March. So it's pretty much all the time. Um, but yeah, So this week, our cameras are not here. We have, what's called a stringer, and so tomorrow, for example, we have the stringer, we're doing some stuff, he's coming by, but our cameras aren't here. Next week, they're here. So, all week I've been planning we have a reveal, so I've been back and forth to the house, getting the house ready for the reveal, and then, they're shooting the afters on Sunday, so we're just kind of planning we have to have the house ready for Sunday, then the reveal's Monday, and then anyway, and then we have all the other houses we have to check in, so we usually shoot all day. We'll start so this week's we're starting one new house and we're closing one house. But then we have, like I said, 8, so we'll have 7 other houses. So each day we typically go to, like, it depends, usually 3 to 4 houses a day and check in, and then do that again and just every day while the crews are here. And they fly in from it's been our same crew this whole time. So some of them are in Knoxville, Oregon, California. So they all fly in, and it's pretty much like you you just have to be there because it's like I can't be sick or I don't there's nothing. When they're here, you
Right.
have to be there
You
because they're
gotta be
here.
there. Yeah, yeah.
So sometimes if our kids have something, we do have like we plan ahead, and I have at the beginning of the year I say these are our dark days, these are the days we can't shoot. The school kids start school. That's the first day of school, we're not filming because I just know that day, I need that day.
Yeah.
Um, and so, I don't know, a lot of times we'll end the day here at our house and we'll shoot, and I come home, especially in the summer, the kids have been home, it's a disaster, our babysitter's amazing, but, like, the kid she's not cleaning the house all day, she's hanging out with the kids,
The kids,
and
yes.
so we get home and it's a complete disaster, and then all of a sudden there's 3 cameras and, our whole crew in here, and I'm like, "Oh my gosh, this is a train wreck?" Um, and then the kids participate if they want. We never make them be a part of anything with the show. They know, it's just our job. It's not really I don't know, they just like, Luke calls our crew the filmers, and he gets excited when the filmers are here because 'cause they're just his buddies. He's known them Luke is only 6, so he's known them his whole life.
His
This
whole
is just our
life,
job.
yeah.
Yeah. But the big kids, now that they're teenagers, really don't wanna be on camera at all, but
Mhm.
they're often here, just not on camera, most often. But they're also so busy, teenagers, like, they have practice and they have friends, they have so much going on, so they're not as involved in the shooting anymore because they just don't want to be. So mostly it's Luke, sometimes Shar pops in, but Luke doesn't mind. He's like, and the other kids were like that when they were younger too, but we
Yeah.
never ask them, we're if the camera crew's here and they want to pop in and talk to us, they can. If they don't have to. But yeah, I think it's incredibly unglamorous. I don't know. I don't know how to just work. We go to work and we have cameras there on some weeks, and on some weeks we don't. I think the hardest part is that this week, for example, there were no cameras, so I just ran out the door and I'm, like, in sweats and my hair's in a ponytail, which is real life, and I'm sweating and loading in my car and loading into the house. But when the cameras are here, I have to actually get up and do my hair and put some
Yeah.
makeup on.
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
that's the only thing that I think that's different. And I think the hardest thing, like I said, is that when they're here, we have to be on because they're here. They only have 5 days with us that week, and we have to get everything done that's on the schedule. So I think again, talking back to what we talked about earlier with control, that's been the hardest thing for me is Dave and I have our own business. So we've always controlled and managed our own schedule, and we've always had that flexibility. If anyone's an entrepreneur, they understand that.
Right.
And when our production schedule, we have no control over our day. We're at the mercy of
You're
everything that
on
needs to
call. Yep. Mhm.
yeah, yeah. So I
Yeah.
think that's the hardest, because, things come up and there are times, like, if something comes up with the kids and I have to run, if you're watching the show and you notice, "Oh, Jenny wasn't there, it was just Dave," it's probably because I was doing something with the kids or vice
Yeah.
versa.
Yeah, yeah.
So yeah, we kinda I mean, we have flexibility in it, but we really do have to be there. There's not like, "Oh, I'm having a bad day and I don't feel good, I wanna just stay in bed. There's none of that. You
There's
can't.
none
You
of
have
that.
to
Yep.
find out. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I think it's still interesting today. I mean, when I started in television a million years ago, we didn't have YouTube. We didn't have, there it wasn't this ability to have content 24/7. And so I understood to some degree the gap that would sometimes happen. Somebody would see me in a store buying chicken. They had just seen me
Yes.
on set on the news. And
Yeah.
sometimes people would be like, wait, what? Almost like they thought maybe I just lived full time at the news station. Like that's just where I lived. That was my little world. And so I understood it at the time. Now that we have such access, such behind the scenes, we've got all of our social media channels, we've got all this different stuff. It's still interesting to me sometimes the disconnect that still happens for people, that place where they're having trouble. That suspension of disbelief is so interesting. Like, of course, these are
Yes.
people with kids and errands and the SUV
Mhm.
that has ankle deep trash. That's life.
Yes.
And yet, we still, for some reason, think if it shows up on a screen and it's more polished, then that is often the reality. And I don't know that that's always good for our hearts as women to not remind
Yeah.
ourselves. No, there's
Yes.
there's a real story, there's real laundry, there's real whatever. And it's lovely to have that aspirational, gorgeous set, home decor, all of that. That's wonderful. Our hearts respond to that. God designed us to appreciate beauty and order and creativity, but it's not
Yeah.
always the story. And so I love that you're so transparent about, hey, this is how it goes sometimes. How are you as parents working with your kids? Now, you say you honor if they want to be on or not. But again, this makes their childhoods and their teenagehoods a little unusual. Mom and dad have a national television show. What are you doing as a couple to keep your kids as grounded as possible, to make sure that they're aware? There are
Yeah.
more eyeballs on them. There are more eyeballs on you and your husband. How do you
Yeah.
navigate that?
I know it's funny. People ask that, but we are just like living in Bentonville, Arkansas. We're not in LA. We're not,
Right.
um, I don't know. It's our life is the most totally normal life that you can imagine. It's just that sometimes when we're at work, we have a camera there.
Yeah.
We don't always watch our episodes. Sometimes we do. And if we do, we watch them together and it's fun, but sometimes the kids are totally uninterested. It's really not, I don't know, it's just not a thing. We are very blessed with the school that the kids go to. It's a smaller school, and I feel like God put us there right before the show started, which was amazing because we had no idea the show was even happening at that point. And I think that they've been incredibly protective of our kids. I know that they have. And so it's not a thing. Like if a teacher, when it first started airing, the kids were young, and I had some teachers talk, like we had a lot of conversations about this is going to be happening. This is going to be weird because it was new. And so one of our kids, for example, had the next day at school had some kids talking about the show, and he was very uncomfortable. And the teacher pulled those kids aside and also pulled our son aside and then also told us. And so we were able to have conversations. And that's just sort of how it's always been in our community. We have a very amazing community that, like, I mean, our kids play sports and are just involved in the community just like we are. And if we have had at our kids' games, for example, we've had people come up and ask for our photo, and we tried to be very gracious, and at first we would be like, okay, sure, but now I personally feel like we have to have boundaries, so we have very clear boundaries. Like, I'm so sorry, we're at our kids event right now, we're not doing any photos, and it's just a hard and fast rule. Because we don't want our kids, because the thing is, what people don't understand is it kind of maybe is rude, but I don't care.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because if somebody sees us taking a photo, then they're like, "Oh, wait, who is that? Why are
Who
these
is
people
that?
taking?"
Yeah.
And then they try to figure out who it is and like, "Oh, who is that? Oh, that's the people from Fix Are Fabulous." And we're in a small town, so most everybody knows about the show here. "Oh, yeah. Oh, wait, which one's their kids? Oh, there's their kids. Let's go." It becomes a whole thing. So
Snowballs.
we just
Yeah.
try to stop it before, and graciously as we can. But yeah, I mean, our kids have we live on a farm, so they're not like they're always doing chores.
Yeah.
I don't know. We sort of are like 80s, 90s parents, whatever. We're very like we really try to keep, like, they have to do chores. They have to, I don't know. I don't know. We really are just normal. I mean, we drive them to school. Whenever we're not filming, I am always the one taking, or Dave takes him to school, I pick him up. But when we're filming, we have the babysitter. Um, Dave, Dave and our family that lives here is at every game. We never miss a game. We never miss. I try to be at things at school. I try not to miss anything at school. If there's something that parents are supposed to attend, I put that on our calendar for production and we plan around it. So I don't know. I think it's also just that we just live a normal life and this is just our job. And sometimes there's cameras,
Right.
but it does get weird. Like people do stop, like if we're having dinner or something and people stop us, or if we're at the grocery store, the kids do also know that if someone's taking a picture, they've learned to just step away. They don't ever get in the photo. Some people are like, "Oh no, come here, kids. I want you in it too." And they know not
Yeah.
to.
No. Yeah.
We have boundaries there as well. And they just sort of, I think because we've been doing it for so long and it started when they were so young, that it's just sort of normal that sometimes people notice us, but it doesn't make it like they're not, I mean, they certainly don't have any special treatment.
Yeah. Yeah.
They're just, kids. But it is, a lot of people do ask why we travel a lot to Italy. As a family, we have dear friends there that we consider family, and that's actually one of the reasons we go, is because there we're not really bothered at all. Not bothered. That's not the right word, but not approached really. And we
Not
sort of have,
interrupted. Yeah.
yeah, we have like, and we're a little bit more anonymous, like we just, because we already stand out, there's 7 of us. But there it's like they just get to be normal kids and they don't have to worry about anyone looking at them
Right.
weird or taking their photo. So we do try, that is one thing that we try to do, is get away as a family like that. And if not, we'll go somewhere super private so that they just know that they're not being watched.
Yeah, they've got
But
room to
yeah,
breathe. Yeah, room to breathe. I love
yeah,
hearing your perspective on that because I think it's something that a lot of us today are thinking about when it comes to how much of our family lives to disclose on social media, how much to talk
social,
about in
yes.
books, how much to. So I think
Yeah.
that's really beautiful. Well, Jenny, it's been such a
Super
delight to get to talk to you today. The show is
nice.
Fixer to Fabulous. The new book is Trust God, Love People, Stories of My Open Handed Faith. Jenny, where can the listener go to find out all the good stuff, where they can find the show, your social media, all that jazz?
Okay, so the show, when it starts airing, I'm not sure when, but it'll be Tuesday nights on HGTV, usually at 8 Central. My book will come out October 7th, and I'm just at Jenny Mars on Instagram. That's the only place I'm really active. I can't keep up with all the other all the
Girl,
other
same.
platforms.
I feel you. I feel you. I've tried. I haven't done so well. Well, Jenny, again, thank you so much. Really appreciate you being on today. And I just love your heart and
Thank you.
your stove and oven range. But, that's another story. So thanks for being here.
Thank you.
All right, friends, you know what to do. Go to those show notes. Rebecca will have all the links that we've talked about. I also want you to head on over to social media. Go find Jenny. Go find All Mom Does. You're going to find a community there as well on the socials of moms just like you trying to figure out all the stuff. It's a great community for you. And I hang out on Instagram a lot too. I'm Julie Lyles Carr there. So be sure and slide into my DMs and let me know about any questions, topics, guests that you'd love to see on the show. I love interacting with you there. And I will see you next time on the AllMomDoes podcast.